There is a name that has been deliberately erased from the history of Western occultism. A man whose teachings on sexual energy predated Aleister Crowley by half a century, influenced Madame Blavatsky's Theosophical Society, and created the first documented system of sex magic in North America. Yet most people studying transmutation today have never heard of him. His name was Paschal Beverly Randolph, and his story is one of the most extraordinary and most suppressed chapters in the history of masculine power and spiritual transformation. Born in 1825 in the slums of New York's Five Points district, Randolph was a free black man in an America still dominated by slavery. His mother was of mixed African, Native American, and European descent. His father, rumored to be from the wealthy white Randolph family of Virginia, abandoned them before he was born. By age 6, his mother had died of cholera, leaving him homeless and destitute. He ran away to sea as a teenager, working as a sailor on merchant vessels that would take him to England, France, Egypt, Persia, and the Ottoman Empire. It was during these travels, in the courts and secret lodges of Europe and the Middle East, that Randolph encountered something that would change his life forever. The ancient mystery teachings on sexual transmutation that had been hidden for thousands of years behind layers of symbolism and secrecy. What he discovered was so powerful, so revolutionary, that it would make him one of the most controversial figures of the 19th century and ultimately lead to his tragic death at age 49. This is Sovereign Path, and today we're going to reveal the untold story of Paschal Beverly Randolph, the African-American mystic who brought the secrets of sexual alchemy to the Western world and paid the ultimate price for his knowledge. When Randolph returned to America in the 1850s, he had transformed himself from an illiterate sailor into a self-educated doctor, trance medium, and occult philosopher. He spoke with authority on topics that terrified conventional society: the spiritual power of hashish, the science of clairvoyance through magic mirrors, and most dangerously, what he called affectional alchemy, or the transmutation of sexual energy into spiritual power. In an era when even discussing sexuality was considered obscene and could land you in prison, Randolph began teaching that the sexual act was not a sin to be repented, but a sacrament to be perfected. He wrote that the moment of orgasm was the single most powerful experience available to human consciousness, a momentary glimpse into the divine, when the soul opens completely and becomes capable of manifestation, healing, and spiritual transformation. This was not the passive spiritualism of his contemporaries, who sat in darkened rooms waiting for messages from the dead. This was active occultism, the deliberate use of the body's most powerful force to achieve material and spiritual results in the real world. Randolph founded the Fraternitas Rosicrucis in 1858, the oldest Rosicrucian organization in America, and began teaching his system through a series of increasingly bold publications. His masterwork, Euless, The History of Love, published in 1774, laid out in explicit detail what he had learned in the mystery schools of the East and synthesized with his own experiments, that sexual energy, properly directed at the moment of climax, could heal disease, guarantee conception of intellectually superior children, create unbreakable bonds of love, manifest wealth, and open the gates to higher consciousness. He taught that men and women practicing together in what he called the nuptive moment could achieve a state he called the ansioratic mystery, a fusion of two souls that transcended physical pleasure and became a direct experience of the divine creative force itself. This wasn't about indulgence or hedonism. Randolph was teaching the opposite, that the casual waste of sexual energy was spiritual suicide, while conscious, sacred, intentional sexual union between committed partners was the most powerful tool for transformation available to humanity. But here's what made Randolph's teachings truly revolutionary and truly dangerous. He didn't just teach sexual magic as a technique. He connected it directly to radical political vision. In his underground writings, which circulated secretly among his students, Randolph wrote that the established institutions of church and marriage existed primarily as systems of repression, designed to control and suppress the natural spiritual power that arose from sacred sexuality. He wrote, "Churches and marriage exist as repressions, our system in expansion, love forever against the world." He predicted that once enough people understood and practiced affectional alchemy, they would revolutionize the globe, overthrowing the repressive moral structures of their time and ushering in a new epoch of human history based on love, equality, and the sacredness of human union. For a mixed-race man in 1870s America to be teaching white and black students together, men and women together, that sexual union could lead to spiritual enlightenment and social revolution, this was more than controversial. This was existentially threatening to the established order. The details of Randolph's specific practices are worth understanding because they differ significantly from what most people today think of as sex magic. Randolph did not teach prolonged retention of semen during the act itself, which would later become popular in tantric and Taoist systems imported to the West. Instead, he taught what he called the volantia, the practice of reaching orgasm together with one's partner while holding a specific mental image, desire, or prayer at the exact moment of climax. He believed that in that instant when the soul opens completely, when ego dissolves and you touch the infinite, whatever thought or image you hold becomes imprinted on reality itself with tremendous force. He wrote detailed instructions on timing, breathing, visualization, and the importance of genuine love and spiritual connection between partners. He taught that a loveless sexual encounter, even if technically performed correctly, would produce only exhaustion and spiritual damage. But when two people in genuine love united consciously with sacred intention at the moment when their souls opened simultaneously, that was when miracles became possible. Randolph also taught practices for the solitary man or woman. He wrote extensively about what he called the magic mirror, techniques of clairvoyant scrying that involved building up sexual energy through retention, and then, instead of releasing it physically, channeling that accumulated power into deep meditative states while gazing into a specially prepared mirror or crystal. He claimed that sexual energy, when not released, doesn't simply disappear or cause frustration, as most assume. Instead, it rises through what he called the inner chambers, activating dormant faculties of perception, intuition, and will. He taught breathing exercises, visualization techniques, and the use of hashish as a sacramental tool to deepen these trance states, all methods of taking raw sexual energy and transmuting it into spiritual sight and magical power. This was practical occultism at its most direct and most effective, and it worked. Students who followed Randolph's instructions reported extraordinary experiences, prophetic visions, healing of chronic illnesses, sudden influxes of creative genius, and the manifestation of circumstances they had visualized at the moment of the Asiatic crisis. But Randolph's race and his radical teachings made him a target. Throughout his life, he faced relentless racism, even from the spiritualist and occult communities he helped build. He internalized much of this prejudice, writing in his journals about feeling fundamentally different, fundamentally other, caught between worlds with no true home. His contemporaries acknowledged his genius while simultaneously using racial language to describe him as exotic, dangerous, primitive. He struggled constantly with poverty, despite his prolific output, over 50 published works on medicine, spirituality, and occultism. He fought public battles with other occultists who he felt had stolen his teachings without credit.
He was put on trial for obscenity for daring to write honestly about sexuality and birth control at a time when the Comstock laws made such discussions criminal. And perhaps most painfully, he oscillated between absolute conviction in his system and deep doubt about whether he had actually discovered profound truth or simply gone mad. On July 29, 1875, at the age of 49, Paschal Beverly Randolph shot himself in the head at his home in Toledo, Ohio. The official cause was ruled suicide, though some students suspected foul play given his many enemies. In his final writings, he expressed exhaustion with fighting, with being misunderstood, with trying to give humanity a gift that they seemed determined to reject or pervert. His widow, Kate Corson Randolph, tried to preserve his legacy, but much of his work was suppressed, destroyed, or deliberately misattributed to others. And yet, his influence spread like underground fire. When we look at the development of Western occultism in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, we see Randolph's fingerprints everywhere, even when his name has been erased. Madame Blavatsky, who founded the Theosophical Society in 1875, the same year Randolph died, incorporated many of his ideas about the spiritual power of sexual energy, though she publicly denied any connection to sex magic and refused to credit Randolph directly. The Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor, one of the most influential occult orders of the 1880s and 1890s, taught a system of sex magic that was directly derivative of Randolph's work, transmitted through his student, Peter Davison. When the Ordo Templi Orientis was founded in Germany in the early 1900s, its inner teachings on sexual magic, later made famous by Aleister Crowley, echoed Randolph's core concepts, though Crowley modified them significantly and claimed them as his own discoveries. The Golden Dawn, the Rosicrucian orders of the 20th century, and even modern Wiccan practices around the Great Rite all contain echoes of ideas that Randolph first articulated in plain language in the 1860s and 1870s. He was the source, the forgotten father, the man whose name was deliberately written out of history, while his ideas were absorbed, modified, whitewashed, and claimed by others. So why has Randolph been forgotten? Partially, it's racism. The occult establishment of the early 20th century was predominantly white and European, and they had little interest in crediting an African American mystic as the source of their most sacred teachings. Partially, it's because Randolph's work was genuinely threatening. He didn't couch his teachings in elaborate symbolism
or require years of initiation to access the core practice. He wrote in relatively plain language about using sex for magic and spiritual transformation, and he connected that practice to radical political and social liberation. That combination, accessible power plus revolutionary vision, was too dangerous to allow into the mainstream. And partially, it's because Randolph himself was a contradictory figure who didn't fit neatly into any category. He was black, but rejected racial separatism. He was a mystic, but also a materialist who wanted practical results. He celebrated sexuality, but condemned promiscuity. He believed in love, but wrote bitterly about betrayal. He was too radical for the mainstream and too practical for the pure mystics. But here's what matters for us today, for men walking the sovereign path. Randolph discovered and documented something true about the nature of masculine power and sexual energy that remains as relevant now as it was in 1870. He understood that sexual energy is creative energy in its most raw and potent form. He understood that this energy can be wasted in unconscious release, leading to depletion, or it can be consciously directed, leading to transformation. He understood that the moment of orgasm is not just physical pleasure, but a doorway, a crack in the fabric of ordinary reality where will becomes manifest. And he understood that this power becomes exponentially greater when practiced with love, with intention, with reverence for the sacred nature of the act. These aren't religious dogmas or mystical abstractions. These are practical, testable principles that you can verify in your own experience. Here's what Randolph's work means in practical terms for the modern man. First, understand that you are carrying within you the most powerful force in nature, the power that literally creates life. Every time you waste that power unconsciously through pornography, through casual release, through mechanical sex without love or intention, you are quite literally throwing away your potential for greatness. Randolph would tell you that the exhaustion you feel after such release isn't just physical, it's spiritual. You've opened a valve and let your vital force drain away into nothing, accomplishing nothing, manifesting nothing. Second, understand that transmutation isn't about permanent abstinence or becoming a monk. Randolph himself married 3 times and clearly valued sexual union as sacred. What he taught was consciousness, intention, and sacredness. Whether you're with a partner or practicing retention alone, the question is always, are you in control of this energy, or is it controlling you? Are you directing it toward a higher purpose, or are you being directed by it toward distraction and depletion? Third, recognize that your thoughts and intentions at the moment of sexual climax have real power. This isn't wishful thinking. It's the core teaching of sex magic across every tradition that has studied it. In that instant, when your nervous system is flooded with energy, when your ego momentarily dissolves, whatever image or desire you're holding becomes imprinted on your subconscious and on reality itself with extraordinary force. Randolph taught his students to practice holding a specific visualization, a goal, a healing, a creative project, a spiritual aspiration, and to reach that moment of crisis while maintaining absolute focus on that image. The results, he claimed, and his students confirmed, were often immediate and dramatic. Fourth, understand the political dimension of this knowledge.
Randolph taught that the powers that seek to control you, whether religious institutions, corporations, or modern media, all have a vested interest in keeping you unconscious about your sexual energy. If you're constantly triggered, constantly releasing, constantly chasing the next dopamine hit, you remain weak, distracted, and controllable. But if you master this energy, if you transmute it into willpower, creativity, and spiritual power, you become dangerous to the established order. You become sovereign. You become ungovernable. That's why this knowledge has always been suppressed, hidden, or distorted.
So what's the practice? For the man walking the sovereign path, here's what Randolph's legacy offers. If you're practicing retention alone, commit to periods of conscious discipline where you build that energy without release. During that time, establish a daily practice of channeling that accumulated energy through intense physical training, through creative work, through meditation and visualization. Randolph's technique of the magic mirror, sitting in dim light, gazing into a reflective surface while in a state of heightened sexual energy that has not been released, opens doors of perception that most men never experience. You're not suppressing the desire, you're raising it, intensifying it, and directing it upward into vision and power rather than outward into dissipation. If you're with a partner, approach the sexual act with the reverence and intention of a sacred ritual. This isn't about technique or performance. It's about genuine connection, genuine love, and shared intention. Before union, discuss together what you want to manifest. Maybe it's a child of exceptional capability. Maybe it's healing for one or both of you. Maybe it's a shared vision of your future together. Maybe it's simply a deeper experience of the divine. Hold that intention clearly in both your minds and maintain it through the act. At the moment of simultaneous climax, when both souls open together, that shared vision becomes a prayer spoken with the voice of life force itself. And finally, honor the source. When you practice these techniques and experience their power, remember Paschal Beverly Randolph. Remember that this knowledge came to the West through a free black man who lived in poverty, faced relentless racism, fought his entire life to share what he had discovered, and ultimately took his own life under the weight of that struggle. Remember that his name was deliberately erased so that others could claim credit for his discoveries.
When you walk the sovereign path, you walk with him. You walk with all the men who refused to surrender their inner fire to the systems that tried to tame it. Randolph's message is not about repression, it's about mastery. Not about denial, but direction. Not about celibacy, but sovereignty. The modern man is drowning in stimulation, yet starving for meaning. Surrounded by abundance, yet empty of purpose. Randolph's work offers an antidote, not through escapism, but through inner command. He taught that the key to power is not in what you consume, but in what you contain. Every act of restraint becomes a declaration of independence. Every moment you hold your energy, you are reminding the universe, I am not ruled by desire. Desire serves me. That's what separates the ordinary from the initiated. The untrained man dissipates his power. The sovereign channels it. The first is reactive, the second, creative. One follows the algorithm, the other writes it. The world today is engineered to keep you fragmented, your attention divided, your energy drained, your instincts hijacked. But the moment you reclaim command over your sexual force, you begin to reassemble yourself. You start to move from chaos to coherence, from noise to signal. Your voice deepens, your eyes sharpen, your presence becomes magnetic because you're no longer leaking energy into nothingness. This is the real alchemy, not turning lead into gold, but turning lust into light, distraction into direction, consumption into creation. And as you rise in mastery, you become part of an invisible brotherhood, not of blood or creed, but of power and awareness. A lineage that stretches back through Randolph, through the mystics of every culture who discovered that divinity begins in discipline. So if you hear this and something inside you stirs, if you feel that quiet recognition, that subtle resonance, it's because this knowledge was never meant to be lost. It was meant to be rediscovered by those ready to wield it with honor. This is your invitation to stop scattering your strength, to stop living on autopilot, to reclaim what was stolen, your focus, your will, your creative fire. Begin with awareness, practice with intention, act with love. And when you fall, because you will, rise again, sharper, cleaner, more deliberate. Every stumble is part of the initiation. Every relapse an opportunity to remember you are not your impulses. You are the one who commands them. Walk the power of power quietly. Speak less, act more. Don't preach, demonstrate. Let your energy speak for you. Because when a man masters himself, he no longer needs validation. He becomes validation. That's the secret Randolph died for, the one that was buried beneath a century of silence and distortion. And now, in this age of noise and distraction, it returns, not through temples or secret orders, but through the hearts of men ready to remember. Men like you. Pause. Breathe. Remember. The forge is within you. The fire is yours. Walk the sovereign path.